Whether you're in automotive, sporting goods, hardware...
We're going to be going on the air in just a moment. I'm going to be looking at the computer here. Don't think I'm ignoring you over there. This is just an experiment. This is the first time we're doing it. You know how good I am with technology, right? Give me a shot at this, okay? I'm going to try and make it work. Look, I was born in the 50s. What do I know about computer technology? I'm just about to go on, so you hang on. This could be a good show. Here we go. Forget walking like an Egyptian, try talking like Moses. Jihad in America 2011, a year in review. And if you thought SOPA was bad, just wait until you meet ACTA. My name's Howard Real, and this is Real Truth. You're listening to the American Freedom Network, streaming live around the world at AmericanNewsNet.com, and on Facebook, and on YouTube. And in the book, Real Truth, Stay Angry, and of course, as always, broadcasting out across the Colorado Front Range on KHNC, Johnstown, Colorado, 1360 AM The Lion. Our call-in number, 877-254-7524. My friends, welcome to a new age, a new technological age here at Real Truth. For the first time ever, I am videotaping the show. If it works, and I'd say my chances are about 50-50, if it works, then tonight when I get home from work, I will try and download this onto YouTube. I'll stick it on my Facebook page, Real Truth Radio, and you will, for the first time in the history of the show, get a chance to see me. Not that that's such a great prize, but we do what we can with what we have. Let's kick it off. Item from Forbes. When sites like Wikipedia and Reddit banded together for a major blackout January 18th, the impact was felt all the way to Washington, D.C. The blackout had lawmakers running from the controversial anti-piracy legislation, SOPA and PIPA, which critics said threatened freedom of speech online. Unfortunately for free speech advocates, these pieces of legislation are not the only laws which threaten an open internet. Few people have heard of ACTA, or the Anti-Counterfeiting Trade Agreement, but the provisions in the agreement appear quite similar to and more expansive than anything we saw in SOPA. Worse, the agreement spans virtually all of the countries in the developed world, including all of the EU, the United States, Switzerland, and Japan. Many of these countries have already signed or ratified it, and the cogs are still turning, with the final real fight playing out in the EU Parliament. The treaty has been secretly negotiated behind the scenes between governments with little or no public input. The Bush administration started the process, but the Obama administration has aggressively pursued it. Indeed, we signed ACTA in 2011. According to critics, ACTA bypasses the sovereign laws of participating nations, forcing ISPs across the globe to act as internet police. Worse, it appears to go much further than the internet, cracking down on generic drugs and making food patents even more radical than they are by enforcing a global standard on seed patents that threatens local farmers and food independence across the developed world. Despite ACTA's secrecy, criticism of the agreement has been widespread. Countries like India and Brazil have been vocal opponents of the agreement, claiming it will do a great deal of harm to emerging economies. ACTA contains global IP provisions as restrictive or worse than anything SOPA and PIPA had. ACTA spans virtually all of the developed world, threatening the freedom of the internet as well as access to medication and food. The threat is every bit as real for those countries not involved in the process as the signatories themselves. ACTA has already been signed by many countries, including the U.S., but requires ratification in the EU Parliament. ACTA was written and hammered out behind closed doors. While some of the provisions have been Stop! My friends, what's the one thing that we're the most short of in today's world? It's not food and it's not water, it's freedom. America is becoming a big brother state. So is Europe. Most of the world already lived like that. The one thing we need more than anything else that we're running out of is freedom, and we are seeing it disappear before our eyes. Why? If legislators in Europe and the United States are honest people, if they really serve the public and they're really trying to do a righteous job, why all the closed-door meetings? Why the closed-door votes? Why is Nancy Pelosi telling us that we'll get to see what this legislation says after it's voted on? What kind of crap is this? If there was ever a time for increasing the level of transparency in government, it's now. When the true depth and breadth of the conspiracies that have been perpetrated against the people of the world for decades are only now coming to light, now more than ever, we need organizations like the Federal Reserve to throw open the windows, throw open the doors, open their books, and let us see what's going on. If they don't want to, then 2 and 2 makes 4. Where there's smoke, there's fire. I've got to think they've got something to hide. Good. Let's take it from them before they give it to us, and if people need to be put away in jail, let us do it. One way or another, we've got to have transparency, or all is lost. I'll continue. According to the Electronic Frontier Foundation, there are other plurilateral agreements, such as the Trans-Pacific Partnership Agreement, which contains a chapter on IP enforcement that would have state signatories adopt even more restrictive copyright measures than ACTA. Similarly, negotiations over TPP are also held in secret and with little oversight by the public or civil society. These initiatives, negotiated without participation from civil society or the public, are an affront to the democratic world order. EFF will remain vigilant against these international initiatives that threaten to choke off creativity, innovation, and free speech, and will stand with EDRI, FFII, La Quadrature du Net, and other EU fellow traveler organizations in their campaign to defeat ACTA in the European Parliament in January. Senator Ron Wyden, Democrat, Oregon, has questioned the power of the executive to enter into the agreement. It may be possible for the U.S. to implement ACTA or any other trade agreement once validly entered without legislation if the agreement requires no change in U.S. law, he wrote. But regardless of whether the agreement requires changes in U.S. law, the executive branch lacks constitutional authority to enter a binding international agreement covering issues delegated by the Constitution to Congress's authority, absent congressional approval, unquote. Now, it's quite possible that the act that we signed in 2011 will not affect U.S. law. It's difficult to say at this point given the lack of transparency. It's also hard to say how the coordination between governments would affect existing IP law. Probably the biggest problem with this trade agreement is how little we all know. Right. There's something worrisome about governments pursuing these sorts of agreements behind closed doors, even if at the end of the day they don't actually affect existing U.S. laws, unquote. My friend, you and I both know the world is interlocked enough today that a major initiative like this in Europe will most certainly affect the United States and vice versa. Lack of transparency there leads to secrecy here, back over the ocean. The whole thing stinks. My friends, you'll forgive me. I grew up in Coney Island, in Brooklyn. I lived 2 blocks from the ocean, okay? When the tide was high, I could smell the fish, and I know what stinking fish smell like. They say a fish smells from the head down. This fish smells from the very top echelons of our government, of the world's government, down to us. And we're the ones living with the stench. We're going to take a break. When we come back, more Real Truth. Go nowhere. Not bad.
Article 4. The right of the people to be secure in their persons, houses, papers, and effects against unreasonable...
Now when we come back, I'm going to do a video. I think I've got Glenn Beck talking about this business. Then we're going to talk about Jihad in America 2011, a year in review. Anyway, lots of good stuff to get your blood boiling. Don't go anywhere. I'll be right back.
Or things to be seized.
An emergency preparedness plan for your home, car, school, and office is a must. Knowing how to store water safely, survive extreme temperature changes, provide reliable shelter, first aid, and sanitation is critical. Knowing where to get the best lights, radios, and other supplies is easy. Ferris Survival, located at 3366 South Broadway, is a professional, reputable, full-service business providing realistic preparedness supplies at affordable prices. Stop by, go online, or call 303-781-0343, 866-781-0343. Sick of playing the guessing game with your vitamins? Tired of paying hundreds or even thousands of dollars for supplements that may or may not work? If you're a professional athlete or just looking for nutritional peace of mind, look no more because you've found Bio Superfood, the next generation in supplementation. 100% natural Bio Superfood packs all your essential proteins, vitamins, minerals, antioxidants, enzymes, and many of nature's special forces you need for optimum health. Call BioAge at 877-288-9116, 877-288-9116.
The Beth Messiah congregation invites you to come and experience the Messianic Roots biblically based congregational fellowship as we observe God's Shabbat in Messiah Yeshua. Praise and worship services begin at 10:30 a.m., followed by an Oneg Shabbat meal, mid-Rosh and fellowship. Beth Messiah congregation is located at 8333 Acoma Way in North Denver. You can find out more information by calling 1-800-205-62.
Okay, I am back. Let's see where we've got Glenn back. There he is.
Good Sabbath.
Glenn Beck talking about Agenda 21. This is good. Don't go anywhere. Folks, welcome back to Real Truth. You know, this is wild. I feel like I'm talking to two different audiences at the same time doing two different shows. I'm here on the radio, and I'm talking to you folks on YouTube. In front of me is a video that you will find on my Real Truth Radio Show Facebook page. Glenn Beck, Agenda 21, the UN's diabolical plan for the world as explained on the Glenn Beck Show. This is important stuff, my friends. Listen.
Nothing really new, but it's picking up steam and it's building momentum in certain circles. The worst part is, you may not even be aware of it, but groundwork is being laid. One of the main reasons for these same old tired ideas being revitalized is because those pushing globalism and government control on a global level have mastered the art of hiding it in plain sight and then just dismissing it as a joke. Their great example would be this: the United Nations Earth Summit, Agenda 21. Yeah, that kind of sounds like Fahrenheit 451. I don't think that ended well. Agenda 21. They refer to it as sustainable development. Well, that sounds good. Gee, Wally, that sure sounds great to me. I mean, who's against development, especially the sustainable kind? Yeah. You might change your mind when you hear a little bit of the background of sustainable development. Here's how Agenda 21 is defined by the United Nations. A comprehensive plan of action to be taken globally, nationally, and locally by organizations of the United Nations system, governments, and major groups in every area in which humans impact the environment. Wow, that's kind of broad. Now, it has been adopted by more than 178 governments. I believe there's only 191 on the planet. The United Nations had their big conference on the environment and development in Rio back in 1992, and that's when everybody jumped on board. But it sounds harmless. It's only Agenda 21. Yeah, go look this one up, because it's not so harmless. And it really, you have to dig pretty deep into this thing. I mean, because look at all this. It doesn't get spooky until about here. Just section 1. Social and economic dimensions, which talks about the redistribution of wealth, changing consumption patterns,
of wealth.
Promoting health.
Thing.
I love this one. Change population and sustainable settlement. That's good. Then a little later, when it talks about the redistribution of wealth, which we all love, quote, developed countries and funding agencies should provide specific assistance to developing countries in adopting an enabling approach to the provision of shelter for all.
When wealth is redistributed, it never comes to me.
Well, that's going to be great because the government's going to own all of our houses anyway because we're all going broke. Because of reading through the pages, it becomes clear sustainable development is just a really nice way of saying centralized control over all of human life on planet Earth.
That's what it's about.
That doesn't sound bad. It starts to make more sense when you see who's responsible for all of this. First, Großland, I love her. I don't really know how to say her name, because I don't know anybody who names their child with the first name G-R-O. Grow. But here she is. Strong like bull. She happens to be the first vice president of Socialist International, which I read in Newsweek, we're all socialists now. Just like Grow. Totally unrelated to her work at the UN is her socialist work, I'm sure. She's also really close friends with the Clintons. Oh, they get along so well.
There's a plus.
Where is she? Oh, there she is. Woo-hoo! Right here. There she is. She's also active in the Clintons' Global Initiative. She's there for the annual meetings.
Those are such nice folks, aren't they?
She was there when Hillary received a German Media Award in 2005. And here's Hillary wishing her dear